I've applied to more than 250 jobs in the last 4 months, and I just realized I've been doing it all wrong. So I was recently scrolling through LinkedIn to see what other jobs I haven't applied to at this point, and I saw a job update from a friend who got laid off the same week that I did get a job. And I was so happy for her, so I ended up texting her to congratulate her and asked her what her secret sauce is. And what she told me blew my mind. Okay, technically it didn't really blow my mind, but it was a really good reminder to understand what's actually important and when searching for a job. So we ended up hopping on the phone, and I basically had 3 takeaways from this conversation. Number 1 is that she trained the LinkedIn algorithm to start for a job that she was interested in, which meant that she was applying to jobs that she liked. And even if there was a role that she aligned to what she was interested in, but was paying less than what she wanted, or at a company that she wasn't looking at, she would still actually save the role on LinkedIn. So the website will continue to send her roles that are similar to that. And that way the algorithm was working for her to do the research. And number 2, she would actually apply and accept interviews even if she ultimately knew that she wouldn't take the role. And I can see some people not agreeing with this philosophy, since that's wasting the hiring team's time and resources for someone who actually would be interested. But that's actually a meaningful interview practice for her when the right role came along. Third takeaway, and the biggest takeaway for me at least, was that she networked and used referrals from people that she previously worked with. And for the role that she was ultimately hired for, her former colleagues actually spoke to his neighbor, and the neighbor who worked at that company ultimately ended up referring her. So the funny thing is that she ended up not getting the initial role that she was referred to, but she ended up getting interviews for 3 more positions at that same company from that single referral. And from there, she ended up getting an offer from one of them. And it's not like she wasn't actually applying to this company before, but once she got referred, in her words, she basically got set up into a new pool of applicants who had a higher chance of being reviewed and getting an interview. Now for me, I've been mindlessly applying to jobs on LinkedIn that sound remotely close to what I want to do and just hope for the best. But I thought maybe my resume was good enough to get some interviews. And when I last applied to jobs in 2021, I would get around 3 to 5 interview rate. So that meant for every 100 job applications I sent out, I might get around 3 to 5 interviews. If I apply to 250 jobs, then I'm expecting around 7 to 12 interviews. But so far, I've only gotten 2 interviews, which is less than 1% interview rate. Now, this third lesson of going through a referral was a big reminder for me, because I low-key stopped using referrals after college, because when I was applying to internships and jobs back then, I would actually use referrals. But there would be a little bit of an added pressure for me to succeed. And I would do this thing where I would think of myself in that role and get very emotionally attached to that position. Now for one role in particular, I ended up not getting it, and that was emotionally tough for me. And because I put a lot of effort to getting the referral and spending hours to prepare for the case interview and prep with the actual referring person, I felt like I let that person down as well as myself. But in this case, to set some context, I was actually probably competing with around 15 to 20 other students for the same role, who most I would imagine got an interview through a referral. But in most cases, after college, you might be the only one that's referred to that role. But that's obviously just one of my tough experiences with referrals. But it was enough for me to actually start applying the old-fashioned way of just applying as a cold applicant. But I would say overall, referrals are good, even with the added pressure, for several reasons. One is that depending on how good and credible and well-respected your referral is at the company, you might actually have like a bonus points, so that even if your interview is okay at best, you still have some benefit of the doubt. And data actually tells us that referrals are 4 times more likely to get offered a job than website applicants. And 20% of candidates who end up getting referred end up getting hired, which means that it'll take you roughly around 5 referrals to get hired. While if you go through a regular application process, you will end up having 1.2% chance of getting hired. So you end up needing to apply to hundreds of applications just to get a job. And in this graph, you see Indeed and LinkedIn are the biggest 2 influxes of applications coming in, and referrals are at around 50% of applicants. But they somehow make up 40% of people getting interviewed and 55% of people getting hired. Now, 55% is higher than 40% of being interviewed, which might indicate that referrals are having an advantage of not only having a higher chance of being interviewed, but also having a more likelihood of getting hired at the end. And that may be because the referrals are more highly regarded when they're evaluated by the interviewers, accounting for all factors. Now, meanwhile, LinkedIn and Indeed make up maybe around 15%. So that aligns to the initial statement that referrals are 4 times more likely to be offered a job than website applicants. So in summary, referrals are not only getting more interviews, but also more likely to get an offer at the end. Meaning that almost half of an organization's hire is coming from only 7% of all applications that they receive, But you might honestly be thinking, referrals must be only good for job seekers, right? Because I noticed that referrals are actually a win-win situation for employer side as well. Because for one, applicants hired through referrals start their positions 10 days faster than their counterparts. And number two, on average, 47% of applicants hired through referral stay loyal to the company for 3 or more years, while only 14% of applicants going through a job board stay the same amount of time. And 70% of employers say that referral hires are a better fit to the culture and values than those who have other sources of hire. And lastly, 51% of employers say that referred applicants are less expensive to recruit given that they start earlier. So at the end of the day, referrals are more trusted, they stay longer, and they create a shorter search time period, and they're cheaper to recruit. So in that case, it makes sense that not only for job seekers to leverage the network to get referrals, but employers to actually have and use those referrals that come in. So before I go into my strategy and what I'm thinking about going forward, if you found this content valuable or helpful at any point, make sure you like, and if you want to be up to date on my strategy and how it's working or not working maybe, make sure you subscribe. So right now, my strategy is to first try and look for companies that I would like to work for, and then start networking to build relationships. And I think a good thing to keep in mind for myself and in general is that not every request that I send out will get accepted, and not every referral will pan out to get an interview. But if I could focus on what's in my control at least, to network with well-regarded people, or AKA people who've been at the firm for a while, and try to network with people who I have something in common with, and get referrals to jobs that I'm actually qualified for, then I should be in a decent spot. So far, I've only reached out to like 3 people yesterday at least. So I can make an updated video to let you guys know what I've learned and if this ultimate strategy worked out. And if you're interested, I could again make an updated video to let you guys know what I learned from this whole experience and if this strategy ultimately works.